Hey everyone, today we are solving Forge from HackTheBox, a medium-rated Linux machine. Straight off the bat, we can see there's port 22 for SSRF and 80. I'm going to go ahead and run some web enumeration in the background. Go ahead back over to our recon, see what else is running on the web app. You can see here on the web app we have just 80 open and nothing else really to look at. It's running Apache. No worries, let's move on. When we go to here into our enumeration of the web application, we can see in GoBuster we have a few things open here. Most notably, we can see we have an admin.forge.htb, a subdomain in this case. I'm going to go ahead and add this to my Etsy hosts. I've already done that, so we'll go ahead and just check it out here. You can see here, I've already added it here into my Etsy hosts. Cool, if we go ahead over to the URL right now, we're getting only local hosts is allowed. Okay, so let's keep that in the back pocket for now. Cool. Let's go over to forge.htb, given the name I set it, and we have a web application. Let's now go ahead and assess the web application. I have Boat Suite open already, so it's just going to simply listen for bits and pieces that we go to in the background. If I go over to, say, click things here, nothing's really working. Go to view image, and we can see here we have a static images folder and then image1.jpg. Interesting. Nothing else notably, again, just clicking stuff. Nothing right now. If I go over to burp, it should find any directories. It hasn't seen anything there right now. That's okay. Right click, go to passively scan, just so it does some background scanning. Go to upload an image, and we can see here we have an upload local file and an upload from URL. Now, if we go ahead and inspect the element here, and we actually go ahead and view what this looks like, go ahead and right-click this one, we can see here that we have an on-click show upload local file. Interesting. And then on this one, we have a show upload remote file. If I go ahead and actually copy this and go to console and go ahead and hit enter, we actually see the page has changed. The reason it changes is because basically upon click, we're actually executing this JavaScript function and just writing to the page basically. You don't need to do this, but it's just interesting, of course, to know how it's working. If we go over to the network tab, not network, go over to, debugger, go over to here, and we can go into the main.js. We can see here, we have two functions, the show upload local file and show upload remote file. Basically what they do is they just inject a form into the page, very simple, but they vary slightly. So the upload local file basically adds a multi-part form upload, basically a file upload like this. And this one simply uploads a URL, so we can simply just give it some data. In our case, we just of course have a URL. So in our case, we want to go ahead and see what's what. Let's go ahead and upload. So in my Forge directory already, I already have two files ready just for use case. We have a car and a test.php. I'm going to go ahead and upload the car. I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. And we get a file has been uploaded to some URL. Let's go ahead and middle click this and go to it. Okay, interesting. So our car is on the page, which means we have the ability to upload and write to the server, but unfortunately it's given a random name. We'll come back to that later. Let's go ahead and try a PHP file now, because I want to see if this executes. Go ahead and hit submit. Okay, that seemed to work. If we look here, this is different to this one, but we have an error here saying it can't be displayed. Okay. That doesn't necessarily mean, though, that it hasn't been written to the page, written to the application. Let's go ahead and now curl it. I'm going to go ahead and do curl forge or $box. And then actually, rather than that, I'm just going to actually just go directly to the URL. Go ahead here, and then we can see actually here we have the contents of the PHP. If we go ahead and cat the test.php, this is the contents, and this is the contents of what's on the server remotely. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, basically what it means is we have the ability to upload files, but it won't execute. So we can see here that yes, there is PHP on this page, but it won't actually execute since it's not being processed in that way. If the extension was to say PHP, maybe it would do, but again, depends on the configuration of the application. Okay, so let's go ahead and look a little bit deeper into how this is working. Let's go ahead and simply just go over to open up a netcat listener. I'm just going to go ahead and open up simply just a little netcat listener just to listen for incoming requests. Do port 9000. I'll go ahead and just kill my background processes, because I don't want them anymore. Okay, fine. Or go ahead and do say netcat, what I was doing before, /nlvp 9000. I picked 9000 because it's the same port I use for my web app stuff. I'm going to go ahead and right click here and go to our web. I'm going to go ahead actually and just pull out here. And we'll go ahead and test out the application here. So we'll go to upload from URL, this time giving it a URL. I'm going to go ahead and just use the car one. Go ahead and change this to be 9000. Go ahead and copy that and then hit submit. Now we should have a request made. So this is what the web application is doing. It's simply making a GET request to our URL, simple get request from Python requests, and just doing that. So we know a little bit about what's happening. We know that it's running Python, although we could have maybe told that from before just on looking at the server header, but we know what it's running based on its request to us. It's kind of told us on the way through. And that seems to be it. We could say reply like, it's not going to work, say like some contents, and we're going to get an error here. So basically what it's doing is it's just making a request to us via HTTP. That's fine. Let's go ahead and try and see what else we can do. So I'm going to go ahead and just try some more manual stuff. So I'm curious as to this only localhost is allowed stuff, because basically what I want to know is like, well, only localhost is allowed, and this is able to get URLs. How can we go further with that? Let's go ahead and try putting in this URL here. So see what happens if we go to this. We get a URL contains blacklisted address. Interesting. So basically what it's doing is it's saying we're not allowed to use, say, /HTTP. Now, simple, you could maybe make this a capital O and it will still be processed the same. In this case, we go ahead and hit submit here. We actually get an upload. Success. Okay, interesting. Go ahead and copy this. Go ahead and now kill it. And we get some contents back. Some contents we haven't ever seen before. Some kind of announcements page. Interesting. So what we have achieved there is SSRF, server-side request forgery. Basically meaning that we can make the server make a request to itself, in this case, and actually access a forbidden part of the application, and then return the response back to us. Now that I know this works, I want to go ahead and make a little script to go ahead and do the work for me. Basically so I can go ahead and enumerate what else is on this admin page, okay? Let's go ahead and do that now. Let's go ahead and Control-N and go to, we'll call it SSRF.py. We'll go ahead and create a little main function and have a few bits and pieces in here. Let's go ahead and create some new lines. To make this video a little bit quicker, I'm just going to go ahead and paste in the code and explain it as I go along, so it makes more sense. So what we're doing here is we're having a while loop, which will basically just run infinitely. Then this will basically handle errors, and then here we're taking a URL which is based on our input. So basically any input we put in here gets assigned to this. Then we want to go ahead and make a request to via this here. Then go ahead and store the response of that request here, and then go ahead and pull out this ID here, and then go ahead and pull it down using how we did with kill, like so. So basically we have really 3 steps. Go ahead and make the request, extract the response, make the request, extract the response, get the actual URL from it, and then get to the contents from it. So this is the response. This is the link to here, this here, and then finally we go ahead and just get the contents rolling, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. Let's go ahead and import the first function, so make request. Very simple, we'll just make a simple request to the page. Let's go ahead and explain it. So we're passing our URL into it, and simply what it will do is it will make a request to /HTTP, so this here. It will then go ahead and then pass in a user parameter, so in this case admin /HTTP, very similar to what we had here a second ago when we had it like so, like this, like this. Then we're going to have just a simple message here saying the URL, just a printing statement, and then we're just setting basically our user input. Let's go ahead and we'll have burp ready to listen for it. We'll go ahead and just modify this. We'll go ahead and add proxy support in a second, but first we need to go ahead and add in requests and the color stuff, basically meaning so everything has colors. We need to go ahead and now go ahead and comment this out and this too, so now everything should run smoothly. Go ahead and add in a little proxy line here, simply just go ahead and drop it in to here, like so, proxies. Go ahead and then just add it into the actual request that will be made. Go ahead and pop it in here. This will simply just pass in the proxies right here. Cool, we should now be able to go ahead and intercept, say here. Now go over to SSRF, go over to here, like so. Go ahead and now hit enter here, go to slash. And now you can see that we have the request that's been made right here. So we're simply making a post request to the upload endpoint on the /HTTP host with the contents of this. I go ahead and URL decode this. You can see we're simply just doing this. I go ahead and hit forward, turn this intercept off. You should now see the response comes back. Now we can go ahead and try the same, but we'll go ahead and say replace that with say sec aura. Now go ahead and see if we go ahead and intercept real quick. Go back over to here. Sec aura. Can now see that the input is now in here, like so. Cool. So that's basically the first step. Go ahead and turn this set off now. Go ahead and import the next bit of code, so the upload URL. This will simply just go ahead and extract the upload code. So basically like this part here. So when we upload an image, we get the string. This will basically extract this string from the page. Go to view source, you can see it's in the string here. So basically just takes this from the page, go over to here. Now we have loaded that in, and we need to go ahead and import requests, import RE, so import RE. Cool. That should now be okay. We need to go ahead and hit enter. This will now return the URL. We'll go ahead and just print the upload URL, like so, just so you can see it on the page. Go ahead and then reboot this, hit enter, go to slash. Now we can see this URL. If we do it again, we'll get a different one every time. Cool. Let's go ahead and now add in the final bit. And this basically just looks for this string here and regex in the page and then pulls it out. Nothing too complicated. And then finally, we'll use the getContent function to just go ahead and simply just make a request to the page. Nothing too exciting, and go ahead and undo this. We'll go ahead and then remove the print statement, like so. Now we can go ahead and then run the same thing, hit enter, hit slash, and then here, we're getting an error here, that's okay. Need to go ahead and just disable my proxy here in the local terminal. Go ahead and try again. Cool, go to slash, and then now we have some content come back. So now we've basically achieved the same thing as we had with the curl earlier that we had. It is in my history, here we go, cool. We now curl, we basically got this. This worked earlier, but obviously it has expired since. But basically, if we do this, we can basically get the same output. And now we can read this. Okay, so now what we want to go ahead and do, now we can read this, is see we have an announcement, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and just type in, say, this. I don't like how this is doing it. I'm going to go ahead and use rlwrap real quick, just to make it a little bit nicer for me. Go ahead and do /announcements. Go ahead and hit enter, and now we can see the announcements. It says here, an internal FTP server has been set up with credentials as user high of security. Cool. So basically we have an FTP server. Interesting. Go ahead and pop this in here. Cool. The upload endpoint now supports FTP, FTPS, HP, and HTTPS protocols uploading from URL. The upload endpoint now has been been configured to allow easy scripting. Interesting. And then we have this here. I'm going to go ahead and just take this. Go ahead and pop it in here. Go ahead and just remove all this. And then now what we can do is we can now say do FTP, whatever. In my case, I want to do something like this. So you can actually authenticate to FTP using like this protocol format. So we can get FTP, then the username, password, and then @ the machine. So for example, Forge. Now, getting the name of the system takes a little bit of trial and error. In my case, I simply just tried Forge HTTP until I got a valid response back. Now we can go ahead and take this, and we now go ahead over to the upload here. We can go over to, say, change this to upload. So basically what's happening is we're actually making a request to this upload, but there's actually a second upload stored on here. And we're making a request to that via this using an SSRF. Go ahead and paste this in there. Now if we go ahead and hit enter, we get an FTP response back. It's going to go ahead and minimize everything in the background so you can see a little bit easier. Everything's just behind. Now if we run this, we basically get the FTP contents back. We have a snap and we have a user.txt. Now it doesn't show us it, but we can actually see we have an SSH file in there, an SSH folder. When we do, we have these. Interesting. Let's go to ID, RSA, and we can then have a private key. Sweet. So by basically scripting it, we've made this a lot easier for ourselves, rather than having to curl it, do this up here, curling it and all this jazz. It's just annoying if you have to do that. So this way works nicely. We'll call this a key.rsa. Cool. Make sure it's saved in the right place. Yep, cool. Go ahead and hit save. Cool. Go ahead and now check out what user it pertains to. So I saw an authorized key in there. I want to go ahead and just pull it out, just to check to see what it relates to, what user it relates to, because often you will have the username in there. So we have user @forge. Okay, interesting. Let's go ahead and now go to new terminal, SSH, user @forge, and then just try that in there. We need to go ahead and chmod it, so like so. Cool. Go ahead and now run in. We're getting a permission denied invalid format. That's possibly because, say, there's a space or something like that. Looks okay to me. Let's go ahead and try again. Interesting. Go ahead and have another try. And that seems to be working. Excellent. We have user, cat, user.txt, boom. Now we have a user. Let's go ahead and see what it can do. So sudo -l, and that tells us that we can run something as sudo. user bin Python 3, so something Python 3 related, and then this code here. Let's go ahead and take this code. Clap. Here. Okay, interesting. So this is like a small amount of Python, but it's kind of hard to read. So I'm going to go ahead and take it, go and copy it, and go ahead and open up a new file. We'll call it, say, priv.py. Cool. Go ahead and drop it in here. Okay, so what are we looking at here? Okay, so we have socket, random, subprocess, and PDB. So straight off the bat, I can see here that we're using sockets. So basically opening up like a network socket. So for some kind of data to come via a port locally or externally on a system. You can see random here, so probably a random number, subprocess for like executing a command, and then PDB, which I think is Python debugger. Interesting. Let's go ahead and read the code now. So here we're basically setting up a socket on localhost on a random port. And the way I know it's random port is because we have port random not randint, and then here on the random port, listening on localhost, and then basically accept some information. It's asking for a secret password. If the password basically is equal to secret admin password, then it will allow us in, otherwise it will chuck us a wrong password. Now, interesting enough, actually, if we go ahead and get through to here, we then have some options of viewing processes and such. But actually, if we have an exception, we actually drop into a PDB shell. Let's go ahead and give this a run and see how it looks. Go ahead and do sudo-l again, just to get the full command. Sudo, hit enter. Cool. And we're listing on localhost 34,813. Go ahead and try and connect to that port on our external system. 34813. Well, it doesn't work because basically our system doesn't have that port available to us. So we have two options really. We could say SSH directly into the machine, like so, and go ahead and connect directly to that port. Let's go ahead and now try this. Again, this depends on it having netcat, but we also could open up a tunnel. Let's go ahead and try that also. We can always go ahead and do, say, netcat localhost on 34813, and then go ahead and enter the secret password, whatever. Or what we can do is we can go ahead and just exit out of here, go to try this. It's going to go to run this again, but we'll do this time. Let's go ahead and just run this command again. So now we have a local host socket running. Go to -l, the port that we want to do. So we'll just choose 32,044, 32,044, cool. Co1, then basically just localhost. So I'm going to do 127.0.0.1, so it definitely resolves. Cool. Co1 and then their port, so 32,044. Cool, and then that should be okay. Cool. We now have a port open. Let's go ahead and now click this. Now if we try the same, but we do netcat on box 32,044. Now we should have a connection, but we didn't. Interesting. I think this is because we are actually connected into the remote box rather than ourselves, so we try this. Okay, now it's asking us for a secret password. So actually what we're doing is we are tunneling via here. So we're actually opening up this port that is running internally and making it be allowed via SSH by using a tunnel. So now we can actually access the secret password. Go ahead and now try this. Now this part isn't required in the sense of opening up the tunnel, but it's just to teach you how to do it. We'll go ahead and drop the password in there. Cool. Now we have the option here to basically provide some input. But what I'm more curious about actually is what happens if we don't provide input, okay? So while true, basically we can view processes. So let's go ahead and try, say, putting a 1 in there. And it will tell us what processes are running. Okay, interesting. And it's just going to basically loop and just keep doing the same thing, okay? So when I first did this, I thought, oh, maybe it could be like using environment variable injection where you can basically inject your path into there. And you can then get a shell that way by basically saying, hey, if you run df, I actually want you to run our version of df, our own binary version of df, rather than the one that is used as the default. But I actually realized later on, actually, if we cause an exception, we actually drop into this PDB shell. Now, if we go ahead and actually Google, go to, say, GTFObins PDB, assuming we actually see here that PDB actually will allow us to get we actually can escape it and get a shell. So if we could do echo import os system bin bash, this will work. But we're not currently in a PDB shell right now. We're actually in just we're actually in this part of the code. We're just going to be looping in this part of the code. Let's go ahead and basically kill it. So let's go ahead and literally just do Control-C. Okay, that has killed the socket, right? Without really telling it why. But you'll notice here that we actually dropped into a PDB shell. That is because this has just ran normally, but because there's been an exception and not a specific exception, common base class for all non-exit exceptions, basically meaning that if it died at all, then run this, it's dropped us then into PDB. PDB is a Python debugger, as my VS Code is really nicely showing me. And now we can go ahead and see what we can do here. So let's go ahead into our GTFObins. Let's go ahead and say import to this. Go ahead and copy. Go ahead and hit enter here. And boom, ID, and we are root. The way this works is effectively we are importing the OS module via Python, and then we're using the system method within the OS module of Python to then execute our own command, in this case bin bash or bin sh, which then gives us a shell in the Python interpreter. Cat root.txt, and boom, we are root. So that pretty much concludes that aspect of that part of the video. Hopefully this video proved helpful, taught you a little bit about Python scripting on the offensive side, and the privilege escalation end of course, building a script to do the work for you, and of course also reviewing the script to escalate to additional privileges or just finding vulnerabilities in basic code. And some basic web app stuff too, which I really enjoyed the SSRF aspect. But hopefully you enjoyed, hopefully you learned something. If you did, leave a comment, like, comment, subscribe, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Take care everyone.